8 causes of blue smoke from exhaust and what it means for your engine. You start the car, the engine runs, and then you notice it. Blue smoke from the exhaust, not white vapor, not black smoke, but a bluish, grayish smoke that hangs in the air and makes you wonder how serious this really is. And in most cases, it is serious enough that you should not ignore it, because blue smoke usually means one thing. Your engine is burning oil, and oil should not be burning inside the combustion process the way fuel does. So when blue smoke appears, it usually means oil is getting into places where it does not belong. Sometimes the cause is small, sometimes it points to wear inside the engine, and sometimes it is the early warning sign of a much more expensive repair later. In this video, I'll show you 8 common causes of blue smoke from the exhaust. We'll start with the most common ones first, then move into the more serious and more specific causes. And stay until the end, because one of the last causes on this list is often missed, especially on turbo engines. So before you keep driving and hoping it disappears, let's go step by step. Cause number 1. Worn piston rings. This is one of the most common and most serious causes. Piston rings are supposed to help seal the combustion chamber. They also help control how much oil stays on the cylinder walls. But when those rings wear out, oil can slip past them and enter the combustion chamber. Once that happens, the engine burns that oil along with the air-fuel mixture, and that creates blue smoke. This type of smoke is often more noticeable under acceleration or heavy load, because that is when cylinder pressure increases and oil control becomes more difficult. If the rings are badly worn, you may also notice oil consumption, loss of power, poor compression, or rough running. This is one of those causes that usually does not stay cheap for long. Cause number 2. Worn valve stem seals or valve guides. This is another very common cause. Valve stem seals are designed to keep oil from leaking down the valve area into the combustion chamber. When those seals wear out, oil can drip into the cylinder, especially after the engine has been sitting. That is why this problem often creates blue smoke right after startup. You start the car, a blue puff appears, then the smoke may reduce after a short time. That startup pattern is a very useful clue, because while piston ring problems often show up more under load, valve seal wear is often easier to notice after the engine has been parked for a while. Cause number 3. Stuck or faulty PCV valve. The PCV valve, or positive crankcase ventilation valve, helps control pressure inside the engine. It also helps route crankcase gases back into the intake system to be burned properly. But if the PCV system fails, pressure can build up, or oil vapor can be pulled into the intake more than it should. That oil then reaches the combustion chamber and gets burned. Result? Blue smoke. This cause matters because it can sometimes look serious but be much cheaper to fix than internal engine wear. That is why the PCV system should never be ignored when diagnosing blue smoke. Cause number 4. Turbocharger seal failure. If the engine is turbocharged, this becomes one of the most important causes. Turbochargers rely on oil for lubrication, and if the internal turbo seals fail, oil can leak into the intake side or the exhaust side of the turbo. Once that oil gets pulled into the system, it burns, and blue smoke appears. This is often more noticeable under boost, during acceleration, or after the turbo starts working harder. So if the vehicle is turbocharged and blue smoke appears especially under load, turbo seal failure moves much higher on the suspect list. Cause number 5. Worn cylinder walls or general internal engine wear. Sometimes the problem is not just the rings alone. Sometimes the cylinder walls themselves are worn. When that happens, oil control gets worse, compression drops, and oil can enter the combustion chamber more easily. This usually happens in older high-mileage or heavily worn engines, and when it happens, blue smoke often appears together with other signs like oil consumption, loss of power, weak compression, or rough engine behavior. This is one of those causes that usually points to deeper engine wear, not just one simple replaceable part. Cause number 6. Too much engine oil. This one sounds simple, but it is real. If the engine oil is overfilled, too much oil can get pulled into places it should not go. That can increase oil mist, oil pressure issues, and oil entering the intake system. Then the engine burns that oil, and blue smoke can appear. This is not the most common cause, but it is one of the easiest to check, and that makes it important. because if the smoke started shortly after an oil change or recent maintenance, this should absolutely be considered. Because number 7, head gasket or intake-related oil leak. Most people associate head gasket failure with white smoke from coolant, and that is true in many cases, but depending on the failure point, oil can also enter the combustion process. And when oil burns, the smoke can look blue. On some engines, intake gasket issues can also allow oil to enter where it should not. This is not always the first cause to suspect, but it is still a valid one, especially if blue smoke appears together with oil loss, rough running, or signs of mixed internal leakage. This is one reason why smoke color alone should never be the only diagnosis. Cause number 8, diesel-specific turbo or seal-related oil burning. Diesel engines deserve a special mention here, because in many diesel vehicles, blue smoke still points strongly to oil being burned, but the pattern may look different. Turbo seal failure, seal wear, and oil control issues are common suspects, and depending on the engine, the smoke may appear during startup, under boost, or during longer driving. That is why diesel blue smoke should still be treated seriously, because even though the engine type is different, the core meaning is usually the same. Oil is being burned. Now here's something very important. Blue smoke is different from white smoke and black smoke. White smoke often suggests coolant or vapor. Black smoke often means too much fuel. Blue smoke usually means burning oil. That distinction matters because it changes what you should inspect first. So what should you check first if you see blue smoke? Start with the pattern. Ask yourself, does it happen only at startup? Does it happen under acceleration? Is the car turbocharged? Is oil level dropping? Do you smell burnt oil? Those clues are extremely useful because the timing of the smoke often points you toward the most likely cause. Startup smoke often points more toward valve seals. Smoke under load often points more toward rings or turbo issues. Constant smoke all the time usually suggests a more serious oil burning condition. So let's quickly recap. Blue smoke from the exhaust usually means the engine is burning oil, and the most common causes include worn piston rings, worn valve stem seals, a bad PCV valve, turbocharger seal failure, worn cylinder walls, too much engine oil, head gasket, or intake-related oil leaks, and diesel-specific turbo or seal-related oil burning. Some of these are smaller problems. Some point to major engine wear, and some can become very expensive if ignored too long. That is why blue smoke should never be treated like a cosmetic issue, because once the engine starts burning oil, the problem usually gets worse over time, not better. And now I want to hear from you. What did the blue smoke from your car look like first? Only at startup, under acceleration, all the time, or only after the engine warmed up? Comment below with the exact symptom you noticed first, and if enough people mention the same issue, I'll make the next video on that exact problem.